Hi, this is Bruce Buffer, your voice of the Octagon, and you're listening to MMA Mental.
Welcome to this week's MMA Mental podcast, which is sponsored by UK Fightwear. You can follow UK Fightwear on Twitter at UKFW, and we're also sponsored by UFC Live, the Facebook page. It's got close to 30,000 likes, so definitely check that out. Great for UFC news and gossip. Also, before we let you know, we've got two guests on this week. But before we let you know who those are, I'd like to shout out some of our other projects and friends. Check out some of our fellow podcasts. We've got the MMA podcast, Word on the Street, MMA Roundtable, the MMA Mental Roundtable with Luke Barnett, and also check out the following Facebook pages, as well as the UFC Live Facebook page. We've got the MMA Addiction, MMAmental.com, and UFC Games if you like any fantasy MMA. Okay, we've got two guests on this week. We opened the show with Steph The Scrapper Skinner, who after going 0-3 took a break from MMA to improve herself, and in her last three fights she's gone 2-1. She has worked her way into the XFC fighting. She's worked her way into the XFC fighting on the televised main card on XFC 25 against Angelica Chavez. And then our second guest is Colin Freakshow Fletcher, who returns to BAMMA after TUF Smashes. He talks about the highs and lows of the UFC and his thoughts on return to BAMMA 13 to face Tim Super Human Newman. He also talks about future opponents and why he won't face teammate Curt Warburton. Hopefully you'll enjoy this week's show. Okay, I'm now joined by Steph The Scrapper Skinner. Steph is due to face off at XFC 25 on the main card, which will be televised, against Angelica Chavez. Steph, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I do want to talk about this fight. It's a big fight on a big card. But before we do that, I'd just like to get a little bit of your background. Now, you've been fighting professionally. You started fighting professionally in 2010. How long were you training before you started fighting?
I think I'd only been fighting as an amateur for like a year and a half maybe before I became professional.
What made you want to get into mixed martial arts?
I had some local fights come to my hometown. I'm from a small town in Wyoming, so when these local fights came to town, there was one girl fight on the card, and I thought, hey, this is something that I want to try, or at least want to say I did at least once in my life.
So you gave it a try, and I think it's fair to say it started off quite difficult. I mean, looking at your pro record, you lost your first few fights, then you took a bit of a break. What made you want to come back then 2 years later and get back into it again?
When I first went pro, I wasn't training how a professional MMA fighter trains. To be honest, I really didn't know what I was doing still. I knew very little. I didn't have great coaches at the time, and I didn't have a team like I have now. After my third pro loss in a row to Diana Rael, they ended up messaging me on Facebook and saying, hey, you have potential. Let us help you. Let us work with you. And ended up moving down to the Denver area and began training with them on a regular basis. And took 2 years off just to train under my coaches. And once they felt that I was at the level I needed to be at to compete, we went ahead and took a fight. And from there, just kept fighting.
You talked there about your coaches. I think it's fair to say anybody that fights in this sport, as much as when you're in the cage, you're fighting by yourself. You've always got a team behind you helping you prepare. So who are some of your coaches? Who are some of the people that you train with?
One of my coaches is Diana Rael. For those that follow women's MMA, she's ranked number 10 in the world in the atom weight class. And then I train under our other coach, Benjamin Schischler, who has been a Muay Thai kickboxer for 18 plus years and just an all-around, well-rounded coach. And so, those are my two main people that I train with on a daily basis and I see day in and day out.
I mean, both of your wins have come via TKO, so do you much prefer to keep the fight standing and look for the knockout?
I would love to keep the fight standing. Our team is known for its stand-up and its Muay Thai, and I'm always game to display that. But if it goes to the ground, I have every bit of confidence in my ground game as well, but I would like to keep it on the feet.
Now, we're seeing a massive boom at the minute in women's mixed martial arts. Obviously, XFC are leading the way. We've got Invicta, we've got UFC. How exciting is it to be part of such a growing part of the sport?
I'm extremely excited to be a part of it. I'm happy that I get to be in the first 105-pound bout for the XFC. They continue to support women's MMA, and they, put a stage for us to fight on, which is great. My fiance, Kathy Robb, is a fighter for Invicta, and they put on a great show and take care of their fighters as well. So it's just awesome to see the sport grow as much as it has. I mean, even when I started fighting in 2009, the sport has come so far in such a short amount of time, and it's just really amazing to be a part of it and to watch it.
Yeah, I agree. It is absolutely amazing. And one of the big benefits, like you say, you're going to be the first 105 fight for XFC. It's going to be televised. How big is it for you, the fact that the fight's going to be televised? How much does that help you?
It helps me a lot. A lot of my home base is in Wyoming, where my friends and family are. I mean, I have a good group of friends down here, but for my family in Wyoming that can't make every fight or aren't able to, drive down, or the fights don't have a stream, it's nice to know that one way or another they'll be able to watch this fight, and be able to see how good I've become. Because for a while there, they always asked me, why do you still fight? Your record's not good. Why are you still doing this? You don't have to. You don't have to risk this. And just, I'll be really happy when they get to see how far along I've come.
When people say stuff like that, does that just fire you on to prove everybody wrong and obviously prove yourself right?
It does, I fight the internal battle every day of someone saying, well, you're just a 2-4 fighter. And, my record shows that, but when you see me fight, you'll understand that I'm not that fighter anymore, and that I have put in the time and the work, and, I do deserve this shot that I'm getting at XFC. I've heard a couple people say, oh, well, they could have found a better 105er, a 105er with a winning record, and I'm just ready to prove those people wrong, make them turn their heads. Whether I win or lose, I'm going to put on a great show.
With the fact that your first 3 losses were down to, like you say, you're not training properly, do you almost feel like you're a 2-1 fighter rather than a 2-4 fighter?
I do actually. In my mind, I really have just erased the past of my first 3 fights. I mean, my first pro fight was at 125 pounds, and I don't weigh anywhere near close to that. Like I said, I didn't have the greatest coaches. And then my next 2 fights at the time, both those girls were ranked fighters in the 105-pound division, and I still didn't know what I was doing. So, as my coaches will tell me every day, they're like, hey, you're a 2-1 fighter. Forget the losses. Under us, you're 2-1. This is the new Stephanie Skinner, so don't worry about the old one.
Knowing what I know about your story, it certainly feels that it's the new Steph Skinner. I mean, like you say, you weren't training properly. You say that you've acknowledged that yourself, and you've now got the proper people around you. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your fight. You are fighting at XFC 25. It's the one of the main fights on the card. Like you say, it will be televised. You're facing Angelica Chavez, who likes the ground game. She's got 4 submission victories. What do you feel you need to do to win this fight?
I feel I just need to be prepared for wherever it may end up, whether that's on the ground or whether it's standing. She's an all-around fighter. Her gym isn't, specialized for just one aspect. They're an all-around gym, so she's going to be an all-around fighter. And I just need to be prepared for wherever the fight's going to go.
And what are your views on Angelica as an opponent?
I think she's a great opponent. I've watched her fights. I know she fought on the Invicta card. I watched her. She fought 2 people who I fought. She fought both my coach, Diana Rael, and Jennifer Berg. And she's, definitely an opponent to take seriously. There's no joking when it comes to her, so I have to, be on my A game.
Looking at her record and the fact that this is such a high-profile fight, a high-profile card, do you really feel that this win could really raise your profile in such a big way?
I do. I feel with a win over her is going to open more of the women's MMA community to my name. There are promotions out there who know who I am, but, their concerns are, her record. Well, come time for XFC 25, as soon as I fight and they see me, they're going to expunge the fact of my record, and they're going to look at the true skill that I have as a fighter and not care that I still have a losing record, but they will see what they want to see, and this will be my biggest fight to date, And with a win, hopefully, XFC signs me to stick around some more because I'd love to be fighting for a promotion like them that continues to grow every day.
How exciting is it as well? Like you say, this is going to be the first 105 fight for XFC. Are you looking forward to seeing them build a division and you being one of the spearhead fighters in that division?
I am. I would, love nothing more than to continue to be a part of the promotion and to know that, another big promotion that's well known is opening up another weight classes. It's great, They do have the heavier weight classes, but they are realizing that there are some really small girls out there that are great fighters and should be exposed as the great fighters that they are. So I love that, they're opening up this division, and I'm more than honored to be in the opening bout for it.
Yeah, it's a fantastic opportunity, and it's great to see. I mean, I've been following the sport for a long, long time, and it's great to see that the women are finally getting the respect and the opportunities that they've worked just as hard as what the men do. They're getting that credit now, which is fantastic. I wish you all the luck for the fight, Steph. It's been a real pleasure having you on to today's show. But before I let you go, I just want to give you a chance to do some shout-outs. I want to shout out any friends, family, sponsors, your coaches, and let people know about your Facebook and your Twitter as well.
Thank you for having me on the show to start off with. I'd like to go ahead and thank my coaches, Ben and Diana, my training partners, Cassie, Rob, Ali Hanjani, Nathan Gates, and everyone else who's in the gym on a daily basis. As far as my sponsor goes, I'd like to go ahead and thank Cereal Box, MMA Mass Destruction, and American Ground and Pound, Inksmith Tattoo, MMA Power Talk, XT187 Racing, MMAJam.ca, JKD Doc, and Fresh Start Entertainment. And that's all I got.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for being on today's show. It's been a real pleasure having you on.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I'm now joined by Colin Freakshow Fletcher. Colin will be returning to BAMMA in September in Birmingham facing Tim Newman. Colin, thank you for joining us today.
It's good to be back, man. Good to be back.
It's always it was great having you on the show last time, so I was really looking forward to getting you back on. Okay, so you're back in the UK. You're back fighting for BAMMA, which we know you made a name for yourself for BAMMA before the Ultimate Fighter House. How's it feel to be back in BAMMA?
To be honest with you, I'm quite pleased, really. It's kind of what I know, what I'm used to, and it fits nice. You know what I mean? I'm not travelling all around the world and killing myself to get there. It's just down the road, and it's just nice and convenient, really.
I mean, it's fair to say BAMMA are putting on quite a spectacular card so far. They've announced 4 huge fights, including your own fight, and 3 title fights. So are you excited to be back on this card?
I am, mate, yeah. I'm very excited. Like you say, there's some good fights on there, and some good guys as well, you know what I mean? I know a few of the guys who are on that card so far, and it's shaping up really, really well. Like, I hope they keep announcing great fights, which I'm sure they will.
Yeah, Curt Warburton's been announced for today. I don't know, he's from up your side of the country, so he's another a great fighter to have on the card, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, they're really good friends. We've been friends for probably about 9-10 years now, so he trains with us pretty much every other day, so I kind of had inside knowledge that he was going to get announced to fight, so I was pleased when it got announced for him, and we're gonna brand this the Northeast Takeover Part 2 and go down there and do the business like we did last time.
Yeah, we're going to be at the event. I'm really looking forward to it. It's already with what they've announced, it's shaping up to be a super card. Now I know we're about 6 or 7 weeks out from the fight yet. So have you started your training camp already, or is it a little bit too soon?
Yeah, I think it was 9 weeks on Saturday gone, so that's like 8.5 weeks. I'm pretty much in the camp all year round. You know what I mean? There's always, if I'm not fighting, there's other lads fighting, so I'm in the gym helping them out. It's a full-time job to me, you know what I mean? I'm in the gym 3, sometimes 4 times a day, and putting hill sprints in on top of that. Excuse me. So I train all the time, you know what I mean? It's like a job, really. So I'm always training.
Does your training change when you know who you're fighting next, or does your training stay the same?
Very slightly. I'm not the kind of person who trains specifically for a person. Obviously, my coaches will kind of point us in the direction of the way the guy's going to fight, and kind of try and get the lads to to follow suit and do that sort of thing. But you know what I mean? I kind of play to my strengths rather than his strengths. You know what I mean? I'm going to make it difficult for him. I'm not going to try and figure out what he's going to do. I'm going to make my fight and as all good and unique as I can. So that's where I expose gaps. You know what I mean? I don't fit the mold. You know what I mean? I'm not looking for the same mold thing. I'm going to try and break his comfort zones and catch him somewhere in between there. Really.
Now, it's fair to say as well that BAMMA have matched you up really well. I mean, you've got a really, really tough opponent. You're facing Tim Super Human Newman. We've seen him in the BAMMA before, but he's on a 2-fight win streak as well from OMAC and Cage Warriors. What are your thoughts on facing Tim Newman?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was over the moon when they mentioned Tim. Really, I've got a lot of respect for the guy as a fighter. He's a hard fight, you know what I mean? And if I'm not in a fight where I think there's a good chance I could lose the fight, I don't perform very well at all. So I'm over the moon that they got us a guy who could possibly beat us, you know what I mean? And that always spurs us on in the gym, and it spurs us on in the fight, you know what I mean? I like to feel like a bit of an underdog in my own head, and definitely with Tim I do, you know what I mean? I respect him greatly as a fighter. Like you see, he's just been two brilliant lads, domestically as well. So it's a good fight for me. It's a hard fight for me.
What do you feel are your strengths over his weaknesses?
To be honest with you, I don't really care. I don't really think about it that much. Like I've just mentioned, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to try and break him. I'm just going to try and break him everywhere. I'm never going to give in. You know what I mean? I've had two absolutely horrific fights of late, you know what I mean? But I've had a lot of outside influences and outside reasons in those two fights, and that I don't want to like harp on about, you know what I mean? But I didn't fight the 40% of me maximum in either of those fights, so I've got a lot more to show, and I think a lot of people know I've got a lot more to show. I'm pretty sure Tim knows I've got a lot more to show than what I showed him in the last two fights. So I'm hoping he comes in very prepared, and it's going to be a hard fight, you know what I mean? I'm going to try and put him away with everything for 15 minutes, you know what I mean? I've got an exceptional gas tank. I'm going to put it on him in every department, really, and hopefully he can get through it, you know what I mean? And in my mind, I don't really care who has their hand raised as long as we've had an absolutely blinding fight, really. And I'm not left disappointed like I have been from the last two.
I know I haven't seen you fight before the UFC and seeing you fight in the UFC. It wasn't you at your best. I can certainly see where you're coming from.
Oh, totally. But like you see, a lot of people just see a win and a loss on a record, you know what I mean? They don't look at the ins and outs of things. They don't look at the kind of flying all over the world and cutting weight and getting stuck on a plane for a full day and night in a foreign country and all the little things that go into stuff behind the scenes, you know what I mean? And things like that, you know what I mean? So it's a double-edged sword, you know what I mean? I think with a little bit of time I would have adapted to that, but I definitely hadn't on my last fight, you know what I mean? It was a big factor going into that fight. I was just ruined, so I'm looking forward to just wiping the slate clean. And like I say, I'm not going to say I'm going to smash someone up, you know what I mean? I'm just going to, as long as I have a fight where I feel that I've given me all for my own sanity, I'll be happy, you know what I mean? That's my biggest disappointment with the UFC isn't that I was cut, it isn't that I underperformed. It's just because I felt like I let myself down and I couldn't perform as much as like I know I can, you know what I mean? I didn't give me all, and I just didn't feel like I could give me all in the two occasions that I fought for them. So I'm just looking to have my fights again, you know what I mean? Very active, very entertaining, and fun. A lot of fun, you know what I mean? I try to bring a lot of fun to MMA because I have a lot of fun with my life, and I don't think you have to be like a kind of one-dimensional. I'm going to go in there and hurt somebody and fight them, you know what I mean? ultimately we're going to go in there and fight, but I like to make the whole thing as pleasant and enjoyable as I can do, really.
No, I see exactly where you're coming from, and that's always been your persona and your style. There's something actually I wanted to touch on. We saw a documentary on the TV quite a while back. It was filmed for you as you were working your way up towards TUF. I'm sure you know what I was talking about. What was it like being part of that? Because there were some really big UK fighters on that, including yourself. What was it like being part of that?
Yeah, I mean, the Fighters' Wives thing. To be honest with you, it was more of a documentary done on the wife, really. It was her show sort of thing, and I was just like a part of the cast, filling in the gaps for her. But it was good, you know what I mean? The guys from the show came and spent a lot of time with us, you know what I mean? They shot a lot of footage, and it was fun, you know what I mean? Just to do something. I mean, my wife was pretty apprehensive about it at first, and I kind of talked her into it by saying these things can only come round maybe once in your lifetime, you know what I mean? Isn't it good to look back on these sort of things and say, oh, I did that when we were young, and you know what I mean? I'm a very family-orientated man, which I think came across well in that documentary, you know what I mean? And I think it's good for the kids to kind of go, oh, I was on Channel 5 when I was younger and things like that, you know what I mean? So that was kind of our thought process going into it, and I don't think we came across looking badly, and I don't think the sport came across looking badly. I try to make it, like I say, I'm not a bad guy. I'm in the gym training like a professional, and I go in there and fight to the best of my abilities, and I wanted to just show that, you know what I mean, that it's not this fighting thing's a myth, you know what I mean. It's a lot of guys with families who work hard and want to provide the families a good, decent life, and from what we do best.
I thought it was a brilliant show, and I thought everybody on it, all the fighters and the wives, all come across really well, and was a really good advert for UK MMA. I thought it was really good to watch.
I did too, you know what I mean. I was a little bit kind of scared in the beginning to think, well, at the end of the day, we're punching and kicking each other, you know what I mean? They're going to come and film that in the gym, and they could have possibly shone a bad light on things, you know what I mean? But people could do that with every combat sport, you know what I mean? You're hitting people, and there's going to be times where you could edit it to make it look like it was all very violent and things like that, but I think they did very well to show, you know what I mean, the more of the background and how the women kind of get very emotional about their fights and things like that, you know what I mean. I thought it was a different spin. I really enjoyed it, and it was good to be a part of.
Right, moving forward and looking at the bigger picture in BAMMA, I think it's fair to say if you're in a promotion, most people are going to be working towards and looking at a title. How does that fit in for you and the division you're in? Because obviously the top end of your division in BAMMA is one of your good friends. How does that work out for you?
Yeah, well, like me and Curt have spoke about this kind of in depth, and it's like I said, belts mean absolutely nothing to me. I know BAMMA did announce I'm hunting for gold and things like that, but to be totally honest with you, I'm not. I'm hunting for good fights, and I'm pretty sure whether I'm fighting for a title or not, it's a fight what people want to see. I don't think people are more interested in a fight because there's a title on the line. I think people are interested in a fight, especially people with a little bit of knowledge of the sport, to think, oh, that's going to be a good fight. You know what I mean? It's not a case of, oh, this guy's going to win that fight. You know what I mean? I think when you can match up good fights, and there's a lot of kids all over the world who I'd like to fight, and I think would put on a fight against me. So as long as that is the case, I don't see a problem. You know what I mean? As long as I'm getting good, well-matched fights and can entertain the people, I'm happy to fight.
That's fair enough. So for now, then, you're more than happy just to focus on it. There's enough opponents out there for you to not have to worry about facing one of your friends. Is that what you're thinking?
Not really. Yeah, and like me and Curt, to each other. You know what I mean? If it was going to be for the kind of money that would do big things for our family, would fight each other. You know what I mean? But at this point in time, neither of us are getting the kind of money to warrant fighting each other. You know what I mean? It's not like it's not worth it. You know what I mean? We've got to and On top of that, I mean, look at how I did against my friend in Norman Park, you know what I mean? Me and him developed a close friendship, which isn't even as close as the friendship that me and Curt have, you know what I mean? And I just fucking crumbled in that fight, you know what I mean? I thought I'd cope a lot better fighting a friend and for massively underestimated myself there. I just mentally felt the bits during that fight, you know what I mean? I think at one point I threw a spinning back elbow which landed, and then I kind of touched his glove to make sure he was alright afterwards, in like kind of a fight for the UFC contract, which in respect is a pretty silly thing to do, really.
No, I completely understand where you're coming from, but we're all human at the end of the day. I just want to say it's been fantastic having you on the show. I really appreciate you giving me your time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you fighting at BAMMA. But before we let you go, I just want to give you a chance to do any shout-outs. I want to shout out friends, family, sponsors, and let people know about your Facebook and your Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's Dr. Freakshow is my Twitter. I'm pretty much maxed out on my Facebook now, but I think you can follow us if you want to see the kind of weird little bits of shit I'm putting up there on a daily basis. I'd obviously, most importantly, I'd like to thank my wife and my beautiful family and all the guys who get in the gym regular to help us train, and like you say, my sponsors who kind of support us through this crazy lifestyle I call a job, who are Lonsdale, Sun Spirit, Outback Burger, Funky Gums, and Machine Lad Clothing. So those guys help us like put a little bit of money away for the kids and stuff, so, and buy them shoes. So they're really important too.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I really appreciate you coming on today's show, so thank you very much for coming back on.
Oh, cheers, buddy, man. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Okay, that was this week's show. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, I'll be back next week with some more interviews. Got nothing lined up at the moment, but I'm always able to pull something out of the bag. So definitely please check out next week's show.